Okay, let's just jump right into this by asking the ultimate what-if question about our past. What if the timeline of human civilization, the one we all learned in school, is actually missing a crucial, highly advanced chapter? Today, we're exploring the seriously fascinating claims of a forgotten civilization that might predate all recorded history. It's a concept that literally flips our understanding of human ingenuity completely on its head.
So, welcome to this explainer. Over the next few minutes, we are going to unpack author Graham Hancock's alternative historical theories, and we'll be placing them right alongside the established, evidence-based consensus of mainstream archaeology. Think of this like an investigation. We're going to examine the clues, the context, and the really fierce debates surrounding our ancient past.
Here is our roadmap for the investigation. We'll be looking at a forgotten chapter of history, anomalies in ancient cartography, the Younger Dryas Cataclysm, Denisovans, submerged cities, and finally, the megalithic archaeological debate. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. A forgotten chapter of history? Let's outline the core hypothesis of an advanced precursor society.
The narrative pushed forward by Graham Hancock hypothesizes that a highly sophisticated global maritime culture existed way before the end of the last ice age. But according to this theory, this civilization didn't just fade away. It was utterly erased by a massive planet-wide cataclysm around 10,000 BCE. Hancock suggests that the handful of survivors from this disaster ended up traveling the globe, basically ceding their advanced astronomical and architectural knowledge to early hunter-gatherer societies.
Now, to keep things perfectly balanced, we have to look at the mainstream archaeological consensus. Mainstream science asserts that human civilization absolutely did not start with some global precursor. Instead, it was all about gradual, independent developments of agriculture and society starting much later, around 4000 to 3000 BCE, in places like Mesopotamia and Egypt. So, it's really a tale of slow, documented progress versus the idea of a dramatic, lost golden age.
Moving on to Section 2. Anomalies in ancient cartography. What do these old maps really show us?
Okay, there is a massive timeline clash here that is super interesting. The famous Piri Reis map was created by an Ottoman admiral back in 1513, yet alternative theorists point out that it allegedly shows an ice-free coastline of Antarctica. The glaring problem? Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, and it gets weirder. The map displays accurate relative longitudes. That's a navigational feat requiring a marine chronometer, a device that wasn't even invented until the 18th century.
So how in the world do we interpret this? Well, the alternative view sees this map as a surviving fragment of a lost maritime legacy, potentially copied from much older source maps of a prehistoric seafaring culture. On the flip side, mainstream scholars argue that no, these coastlines are merely coincidental misrepresentations of South America, or they're just imaginative additions, which, to be fair, was super typical of early cartographers who just wanted to fill in the blank spaces of the globe.
All right, Section 3. The Younger Dryas Cataclysm, the disaster that reset humanity.
If there was an advanced civilization, what on earth destroyed it? The answer might actually lie in a thoroughly documented geological event called the Younger Dryas. Beginning roughly 12,900 years ago, the Earth, which had been gradually warming up, suddenly snapped right back into a brutal 1,300-year deep freeze. This wasn't a minor change. It was a dramatic climatic shift that caused massive disruptions to ecosystems and was undeniably a massive hurdle for early humans.
So what triggered this sudden freeze? The evidence points to a massive anomaly. We see a sudden global temperature drop, the rapid extinction of megafauna, and fascinatingly, nanodiamonds and specific microscopic markers found in sediment layers. Hancock and several scientists suggest this geological evidence actually points to a fragmented comet impact around 10,600 BCE. We're talking about an event powerful enough to melt ice caps, raise sea levels, and potentially hit the reset button on human progress.
Let's shift our focus to Section 4, Denisovans and Unexplained Events, the Mysteries of Siberia.
5%. Seriously, that number is absolutely staggering when you really unpack what it means. In the Denisova cave in Siberia, scientists discovered the remains of an entirely new, extinct archaic human species, the Denisovans. And, remarkably, modern indigenous populations in places like Melanesia have up to 5% Denisovan DNA today. This proves these ancient humans weren't just isolated, they actively interbred with our ancestors. Furthermore, the cave yielded sophisticated jewelry and stone tools, tens of thousands of years older than they supposedly should be. It's a massive hint at out-of-place technological leaps.
80 million. To anchor the sheer destructive scale of cosmic impacts in reality, we honestly don't even have to look back 12,000 years.
Just look at the 1908 Tunguska event, also over in Siberia. A suspected meteor exploded in the atmosphere with the force of roughly 1,000 Hiroshima bombs, instantly flattening 80 million trees across 2,000 square kilometers. It serves as this terrifying modern glimpse into how quickly and easily an impact could literally erase a civilization.
This brings us to Section 5, Submerged Cities and Secrets. Evidence beneath the waves.
Think about what we miss when we only look on land. The submerged Egyptian city of Thonis Heracleion was lost for centuries, but when it was recently rediscovered, it yielded over 64 ancient shipwrecks, 700 massive anchors, and these towering 16-foot-tall granite statues. Now, while this specific city is from the later dynastic periods and sank due to localized subsidence, it brilliantly illustrates a point. Entire, highly advanced cultural hubs really can simply vanish beneath the waves. And this search for lost underwater or buried artifacts connects deeply to a much more speculative idea, the Hall of Records. Originally a mystic vision from Edgar Cayce, it describes a hidden repository of ancient, Atlantean-era knowledge supposedly buried right beneath the Egyptian Sphinx. While mainstream science entirely views this as myth, alternative theorists like Hancock believe such a time capsule might actually exist, just waiting to bridge the gap between ancient legend and historical fact.
Let's move to our final section, Section 6, Megaliths and the Archaeological Debate, the physical remnants of the past.
Now, this is where the debate gets incredibly physical. Geologist Dr. Robert Schoch analyzed the Great Sphinx and argued that the deep, wavy fissures on its enclosure walls are actually heavy water erosion. Because Egypt hasn't seen that kind of heavy rainfall for millennia, Schoch dates the Sphinx to a much wetter era, around 10,000 BCE. But this directly contradicts the established context-based archaeological timeline, which firmly dates the Sphinx to the reign of Pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BCE.
But when we zoom out and look at the globe as a whole, some really strange patterns start to emerge. Hancock suggests that survivors of a lost civilization spread very specific shared traits across the planet. Notice the patterns. We're talking precision megalithic architecture using massive stones cut perfectly without mortar, advanced geometry, incredible alignments to true north, and pervasive global flood mythologies. Alternative theorists argue it's just highly improbable that completely isolated cultures, from Egypt all the way to Mesoamerica, developed these exact same complex traits entirely independently.
And we can actually see these potential links in ancient timekeeping too. Consider the highly advanced Maya long count calendar. Evidence shows this complex astronomical tool was actually inherited from older, mysterious precursor cultures like the Olmecs. The fact that the Maya could precisely track a 5,125-year cosmic cycle using this inherited framework, well, to some, that hints at a continuous, unbroken chain of ancient knowledge passed down through the millennia. When analyzing something as monumental as the pyramids, we see a literal massive split in the theories. The alternative Kemet theory claims an advanced precursor society built them using lost high technology. Some even suggest things like acoustic levitation, long before 10,000 BCE. Conversely, standard Egyptology relies on a massive wealth of documented evidence, proving the ancient Egyptians built them gradually during the dynastic era, around 3000 BCE, using incredible feats of manual labor, ramps, and simple tools. But, to be completely fair and impartial here, we absolutely must note the strict mainstream pushback. The Society for American Archaeology hits on a very hard truth. No undisputed physical artifacts of this proposed civilization have ever been found. No advanced metallurgy, no ancient plastics, no Ice-Age Tupperware. They argue that if a global, technologically advanced society really existed, the archaeological record would undeniably reflect it by now. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a question to chew on. Do these anomalies, the mysterious maps, the water erosion on the Sphinx, the shared global mythologies, do they actually point to a forgotten civilization wiped out by a comet? Or is the real marvel here simply the incredible, documented resilience and independent genius of our known human ancestors? I encourage you to keep questioning, keep exploring, and decide for yourself what the evidence truly reveals about our past. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.